What is the most optimal resilience that you should run in Destiny 2? Today we go down the path of answering that very question. For those unaware, resilience is your health, and intuitively you always want more health, right? But in a game like Destiny, where more of one stat means less of another, this has actually been a question for the ages. As you may know, we have resilience levels running from 0 all the way to 10, and Bungie has never actually come out and specifically stated how much health there is at every level. Only recently did they add that tooltip in the main menu on your character where it shows you the percentages from one to the next, but even that means people still had to try and figure out what the baselines were, right? Countless community folks over the years have spent hours and hours trying to nail down those exact amounts at every level. Now that's just been half of the equation, because the other half is once we do know, how much should we even run? Especially because this can often shift with whatever the meta currently is. I mean, the perfect example is the 120 hand cannons, right? Look on screen, you have one person living and one person dying to the 1 crit 2 body. The very premise of figuring out what's optimal is finding those fine lines like this example I just showed you, as well as balancing how much you want to use for your abilities. Well, today I'm going to share my story on all of these aspects, and first I want to talk about how I finally confirmed with high confidence what each level of resilience equals. Everyone has always known that tier 0 to tier 10 gave a window of health between, say, 184 and 201. Like I said earlier, Bungie added those percentage numbers in the tooltip, which definitely helped steer people in the right direction, but there still wasn't extreme confidence in what the numbers were. And when I was making my story of the Thorn video a while back, talking about the burn damage and how that's changed over the years, I got really sick and tired of not knowing exactly with confidence what these levels were, so that's the path I went down. You see, every once in a while, Bungie will include very specific numbers in their patch notes. For example, look here at the November 2020 update where they say adaptive auto rifles damage per bullet was reduced from 15.75 to 14.25. Now in game, this 14.25 bullet will actually show you a 15 on screen. Bungie does that for very good reason. It cleans up their screen. No one wants to see decimal points flying around all over their screen while they're playing the game. Either way, every once in a blue moon, they will actually give us exact numbers. Like look at this one here, another one where they talked about the last word. We actually now believe that that had a typo, but you get the point. I thought to myself, what if I went back and grabbed every single time they gave us exact decimal points like that, gathered all of them and started making combinations to try and test with those only? For example, just taking that 14.25 from the adaptive auto rifle, if I shoot someone with 13 bullets, I know that I've dealt 185.25 damage. We believe 0 resilience is 185, so if the Guardian dies, then there's some decent confidence in that number. And the next step would be testing below 185 to make sure they live. Like what if I could deal 184.75? Then we really know that the range is between those two numbers for 0 resilience. Hopefully that makes some sense, because my goal was ultimately to find an upper and lower range for every single level of resilience that we believe to be true. Now this is by far the biggest rabbit hole that I have ever gone down for a video, and if by the end you found it interesting or helpful, because I promise I'm going to show you what's the best to run, then subbing or telling your friends about the channel is a huge way to help get my name out there, and I'd really appreciate it. Now, after I went ahead and gathered all of those exact numbers that Bungie has given us with the extra decimal points, I realized I was in way over my head to try and come up with all of these combinations. Like it was going to take me until I was 80 years old. So I actually went to someone who's way smarter than me. I needed some sort of computer magic to spit out every single combination of the numbers that I gathered, and the freaking genius did it. My friend wrote a computer script that just did the math for us. Guess how many combinations that there were? 267,486,625. Yeah, I can't exactly ask people to sit there and do 300 million tests for all these combinations, can I? So after parsing the data, removing any combos that happen to give the same totals, and then focusing on the numbers that we cared about, like every level of resilience only, I managed to bring that down to 3,000. Don't worry, we didn't do 3,000 tests, but let me tell you, I sure am lucky to have such an amazing community of people around me in the Discord. Like you guys, I can't say thanks enough. Not only did we confirm every level of resilience, but we found something kind of crazy. Let me show you the example of what happened at 6 resilience. Okay, it's estimated to be 192 health right now, right? That's 70 HP plus 122 shields. Cool. We had a bunch of combos that added up to 191.8, 191.9, 191.95, like right below that threshold. We had a bunch of combos that added up exactly to 192.00, We had a bunch of combos that added up to 192.05, that close to the limit. In testing the ones right below the threshold, it would always leave them with a visible amount of health. That makes sense because we're dealing below their health level. Then when we would test the third one, it would kill the Guardian. Again, that makes sense. We're dealing more than what their health should be. But the interesting part was that when we were dealing exactly 192.00, it would leave them with a sliver of health. Like, look at the bar on screen right now. It basically looks like it's empty, as if it's at truly zero. Now, the reason I said this was crazy is because this is how every single level of resilience acted. When we dealt below it, they would live with visible health. When we dealt above it, they would die. But when we dealt exactly what their health was, they would live with seemingly zero health, as if to say that you have to cross that threshold or something. Anyway, here's my final table of results, and I know those 0.01s look kind of funky, but that's just my way of demonstrating that it seems like you have to cross that threshold with whatever weapon that you're using, and I'm told it might have something to do with this thing called floating arithmetic in development of games, and while I'm not someone who knows how to write code for a game, I mean, heck, I couldn't even write the script for this math. I needed my friend to do that for me. So let's just move on to the next part where I tell you what I think is best to run. I was obviously feeling analytical this month, so I tried to take a unique approach to this as well. Here's a list of every single weapon in the game, courtesy of Mercules' massive breakdown sheet. There's a lot of content creators that use this when they go to talk about like time to kill on weapons. I decided to figure out what it takes for every weapon to kill at all levels of resilience in the game so that we could figure out what's best to run. What I mean by that is exactly what I showed you at the beginning with those 120 RPM hand cannons, where at 4 resilience, it needed 1 crit 2 body, but at 5 resilience, it needed 2 crit 1 body. I'm going to run through an example to demonstrate, and it's really important that you understand this before you look at the charts at the end of my video. Let's just say you're running 4 resilience, I'm your opponent, and I have an adaptive SMG, a legendary archetype that I'm going to forever miss. If I hit you with 11 crits and 1 body, you'll die. Now, if you bump up to 5 resilience though, you'll live. At that higher health level, I have to hit 12 headshots in order to kill you. This is what I call an accuracy block. It's the same time to kill, but your higher resilience forced me to be more accurate. Now, if you bump to 6 resilience, you still die from those same 12 headshots. This is what I call a wasted stat jump. I have to hit 12 crits to kill you at 5, but that damage is high enough that it will also kill you at 6. So if you had to choose between 5 and 6, you might as well run 5. But now let's say you go one step further and run 7 resilience. Well, now those 12 headshots are no longer enough to kill you, and I'm forced to shoot a 13th bullet. This is what I call a time to kill block, because even if I had an aimbot with 100% accuracy, I must shoot an extra bullet to take you down. Clear as mud, right? Like I said, it's really important you understand that, so just to reiterate, when you went from 4 resil to 5 resil, it forced me to be more accurate, so that was a good thing. When you went from 5 to 6, it was a waste. But then when you went from 6 to 7, it forced an extra bullet, resulting in a longer time to kill. Well, I was crazy enough to run that sequence for every single weapon archetype in the game through all levels of resilience. Why I would torture myself with this, I don't know. Actually, let's be honest, I'm thirsty for clicks. I'm trying to grow my channel. Now, here was my first draft at making a chart to try and help you visualize this. The bottom level of the graph is your levels of resilience from 0 to 10. The bars show you how many weapon archetypes that level of resilience forced the weapon to do more in order to kill you. Now remember, when I say more, I'm talking about those 2 examples from before, either forcing your opponent to be more accurate because you have more health, those are the blue bars, or forgetting about accuracy and just straight up forcing them to need an extra bullet no matter what. Those are the orange bars on the chart. Quick disclaimer, I didn't test all things like kill clip, rampage, high energy fire, all of those damage boosting things out there because it would be endless and I would never make a video again. Now, when I finished this, I felt like maybe this is a bit of a messy graph. You can kind of see what's going on, which ones are good, which ones are bad, but I still feel like, what if I value extra bullet, like the time to kill changer, more than just forcing my opponent to be a little bit more accurate? So here's draft number 2 of this chart. It's a little bit cleaner, and you can definitely start to see which resilience levels give you more bang for your buck. Like if you're wanting to run low resilience, I would aim for 3 instead of 2 or 4. 6 and 7 give a solid amount as well, and then 9 is like really off the charts, but there is a caveat. Having 9 resil means a lot less of your other gear stats, so it got me thinking, we tend to love using our favorite weapons or sticking to the meta. So what if I only focused on those instead of doing this for the entire game of weapons? And that is when the wonderful folks at Trials Report came into the picture. Great people, highly recommend. They have one of the most incredible websites. Again, super lucky to have people like this in our community. And they helped me look at the top meta weapons in recent history so that I could figure out what the right weapon archetypes I should focus on. With that in mind, I have this graph. The yellow bars are the same ones that you just saw, all weapon types in the game, but the green ones, those are the ones where I only focused on the meta options. Follows a similar story, which actually makes sense, but it definitely shows it's not as impactful. My recommendation would probably be the same here, but I realized another very important thing. Humans aren't aimbots. Well, at least not anymore now that we have BattleEye installed. Every test that people always do, including what I just showed you so far, always looks at the optimal time to kill, right? People always talk about TTK as if we're always going to hit headshots non-stop. I thought to myself, a lot of these would change if we used real-time accuracy from our opponents. So I went back to bugging Trials Report again. They were fantastic to work with, and they ended up providing me with every average accuracy percentage across every single archetype in the game. Seriously, to the person that I was talking with, thank you big time for helping me out. And to those of you watching, here are the percentages for those main primary weapons. None of those are 100%, not even close. And to the hardcores out there, I know that these accuracy amounts from Trials Report are just final bullet percentages, but similar logic can be applied to the overall accuracy of our opponents. And yes, I was crazy enough to rerun all these scenarios again, matching these accuracies that Trials Report gave me. Insert chart number 4, I think now. This chart focuses on meta weapons only, so I'm forgetting about all of the other ones, and it compares the efficacy of 100% aim in dark green versus average aim in light green. Based on this, 7 resilience gives a lot of bang for your buck. So does 10 actually, but I'm not really willing to give up that many gear stats for what it does for me because I just value recovery, mobility a lot more. Based on that logic, I want to give some really important disclaimers here. Number 1 is that those accuracy percentages, like I said, are averages. If you're playing extremely good players, they're going to have higher percentage accuracies than those, and you might be better off running what the dark green graph shows. If that's the case, I would say run 3, 6, or 9. I've been running 6 for the past few months though, and I'm honestly excited to give 7 a shot for a while based on this new analysis. Number 2 is the fact that you have to also know your opponents. Like for high-level tournaments that use almost exclusively hand cannons, for them, they should focus on what hand cannons, maybe shotguns, or an empowering rift with a sniper. You know, that's like pretty much all that they should be worried about. 140 RPMs are pretty popular, and all you need to run is tier 2 resilience to prevent the 2 crit 1 body on those. 6 resilience saves you from thorn, and then shotguns are the last piece that I'm going to talk about, and it'll be pretty quick. Through the oceanous amounts of testing that we did for this video, we actually found some really interesting info on shotguns, and this is what I believe going forward. I think aggressives deal 22.25 damage and only need 9 pellets to kill. Even at 10 resilience, you're gonna die to 9 pellets. Now, of course, damage drop-off exists, but I've already made a video on that subject, so we're just gonna omit that. Precision shotguns like the new Fractithis, those can deal somewhere between 19 and 19.2, I believe, as they can kill 5 resilience with 10 pellets, but then once you bump up to 6 resil, you actually need 11 pellets to kill. Finally, lightweight shotguns are also getting pretty popular with ones like the Reese Walker out there, and I believe those deal anywhere from 18.2 to 18.5, as they need 11 out of the 12 pellets to kill at any resilience level. Now, this was hands down the hardest, most tedious topic I have ever had to test. So once again, thank you for watching, and everyone who helped along the way, I really appreciate it. If you found this video insightful, I think you'd love the clickable link on screen right now, and I'll catch you in my next one if you decide to subscribe.